The Israeli military is detecting new missiles launched from Iran as President Trump deliberates potential U.S. military strikes in the region. I want to bring in Avi Mayer from Jerusalem. He's joining us right now. He's the founder of the Jerusalem Journal, the former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. Avi, thanks so much for joining us. We just saw our own Anderson Cooper and Oren Lieberman in Tel Aviv in a bomb shelter as a new barrage of Iranian missiles is heading towards Israel. What are things like for you in Jerusalem right now?
Well, Wolf, good to see you again. Jerusalem has actually been significantly quieter than Tel Aviv and other cities. We've certainly gotten our share of alerts and missile sirens over the past few days, but there have been no missiles that have actually hit this city as opposed to Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other places where we do know that there has been some devastation where 24 people have been killed over the past few days. That's far lower than the projections had been ahead of time, but certainly devastating nonetheless.
We know that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have been speaking on the phone. What are you learning about the kind of pressure that the Prime Minister is trying to place on Trump to join the strikes against Iran?
Well, look, there are several different perspectives here in Israel. On the one hand, you do have certain elements, including, of course, the prime minister, who are speaking to the president and people in his circle, trying to encourage them to become involved in this military campaign against Iran's nuclear program. On the other hand, you have Israeli officials telling the Wall Street Journal that if Israel must, it can go it alone, that there is a plan in place to attack even the most fortified nuclear facility in Fordo, that site that many have said can only be attacked by use of these bunker buster bombs that the United States has, that Israel can in fact do that if it really needs to. So you have these two different perspectives, essentially trying to figure out what the United States will do and what Israel will be forced to do on its own.
Just days before the attack on Iran, we know that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was hanging by a thread politically in Israel right now. Is that changing? Are the Israeli people in support of what he's doing right now as far as Iran is concerned?
There is wall-to-wall support in Israel for this campaign, which is viewed by Israelis as, frankly, existential. Israelis know that Iran has wanted this country's destruction for decades. They say so very openly. And we also know that Iran has been developing a secret nuclear program. This is not something that anyone really doubts. And so I think there is wall-to-wall support in this country. You have leaders of the opposition, including Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz, full-throatedly supporting this effort and saying they acknowledge that this was the moment to act, that Iran has indeed posed an existential threat to the state of Israel, and this is our opportunity to ensure that that threat is removed from our necks.
What's your sense, Avi, of whether or not the U.S. will ultimately join Israel in this military campaign? What are you hearing from people in Israel?
Well, at the moment, Israeli officials are essentially saying that they believe it is likely the United States will participate in the campaign in some way. We don't know exactly what that'll look like, whether it'll simply be a limited assault on that site at Fordo or something broader. Israel has said openly that its goal is not regime change. That is not why Israel is doing what it is doing. This is simply an attempt to remove the threat of annihilation from the Jewish state. However, if the United States becomes involved, that could indeed expand to something much more significant. When the president talks about unconditional surrender, that sounds like something much more significant than simply removing the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. So the United States and Israel may not be fully aligned on what the ultimate goal is, but I think it's very clear that both are in agreement that the United States and Israel cannot allow Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. I think that that's what we see happening here.
All right, Avi Mayer in Jerusalem for us. Avi, thank you very much. We'll stay in close touch with you.